Hello! My name is Katie May and I am your guide to building a brand based on authentic connection. I'm not sure how much you can hear the wind outside of me, but it's blowing pretty hard today. So if you hear that, just enjoy it with me, the sounds of nature. So on the screen right now, you'll see a Canva template. Basically today, I wanted to take you guys through how I will use a Canva template and make it into my own. I'm choosing between two different templates. Just set that on the floor. And just kind of seeing what both of them look like. A big thing for me when I'm choosing a template is I want it to be something where people can have the opportunity to like print it at home, because I know for me, I'm really big on being able to print stuff, like have a physical copy of it. So I decided to go with the first one. There's a couple less pictures in it, and I honestly just like the design of it all a little bit better. Give me 1 second. Obviously, the screen that you're watching right now is pre-recorded. I had a hard time talking through doing the Canva and then talking at the same time. I had a horrible job trying to multitask through both of them. So I decided that I was going to record this and then like record this part of the video later. And then I have a little bit of an ADHD brain, and as much as I try not to use that term, there are certain facts in myself that I do have to come to terms with. And one of those is it's really hard for me to sit down and just talk by myself. I feel like when I was in my car and doing these videos, it's a little bit easier because then I at least had like something to do with my hands, even if I got distracted from time to time. So I figured, like, why not? Like, I'll just talk and do my makeup at the same time. So have fun either watching the makeup tutorial or the Canva tutorial. Whatever you want. Essentially though, I did want to talk a little bit more about the grieving process, what that's looked like for me, what that's looked like for other people in my life, just because that conversation has been coming up a lot. For me, as I talk to different people, and maybe they don't technically like use the term like grieving process, but essentially that is what they're talking about, even if they're not using the same terminology, right? So the grieving process is basically just the process that we go through to come to the point of accepting some sort of loss in our life, right? Whether you're grieving somebody that's passed away, or an opportunity that you missed out on, or like, I don't know, there's like so many things that we can grieve in this life. And I know for me, when I first started experiencing loss, I was living with my parents at the time, and they didn't know how to move through the emotions of loss themselves. They really only knew how to ignore it and move away from it in different ways. And sometimes that is a necessary first step when dealing with loss, you know, like, unfortunately, just the society that we live in doesn't allow us the space to grieve when we need to. However, if you do not create the space that you need in, like, I'd give yourself a week tops, if even that, to actually grieve what you need to grieve, those emotions are going to be trapped inside of your body, and it makes it so much harder to move through those emotions if you don't handle it in an appropriate amount of time for your body. Because not only does, whenever you're trying to process it again in the future, not only does your body have to cope with the fact that it's now able to go through this grieving process, but it also has to go through a separate state of grieving for like your lack of willingness to take care of your body, essentially. That's the best way that I know how to frame it up. So it's really important that you do handle your grief in an appropriate amount of time, or there's like extra grief and extra loss that's going to be like partnered with that emotion, right? So Of course, if you're in a state right now, like, oh my gosh, like, I've been doing everything but allowing myself to grieve for like such a long time. I have so much grief to process through. One thing that I recognized for myself is I thought that I had to go through every single traumatic scenario, big and small, and like handle the grieving process for it individually. And at least for me, that wasn't the case. That's kind of what I was taught in therapy, was to go through all these traumatic events again and really dissect them and learn how to go through the processes of grief. And that was honestly like not helpful. Like, I still really wasn't taught how to handle these emotions in and of itself. So one thing that helped with me is I had to recognize that there was an extra sense of loss in the events that I didn't give myself the space to grieve. And it wasn't like always necessarily, I guess, like quote unquote my fault. It was still my decision to not grieve in those scenarios, and it was still my decision not to learn how to grieve, but I didn't know how to in both scenarios. So I feel like growing up, I learned to give myself and the people around me a lot of grace. As I, not at first, there was a lot of anger at first, but as I've been able to take care of myself better, like there's a lot of grace that I can give people now because they didn't know better, you know? And it took me a while to know better. So like for me, it just could not be an expectation that I had for them to just randomly know better because I now did the time to know better, you know what that means? So I had to give myself grace to be able to give these other people grace, but then I also had to go through the process of learning, you know? I actually had to figure out how the heck I'm supposed to grieve, and every scenario looks different, right? So sometimes like a random emotion will come up and it's going to trigger a thought for me, right? And that thought, like, or like memory or experience, it gives me insight on like kind of what I'm healing in that moment. And in those places, I know it's time to kind of sit down, relive that experience again, kind of connect with those thoughts and emotions and feelings, and really just asking myself, like, hey, like, I hear you, you know, like, what can I do for you? What do you need? And really just opening that line of connection and communication to myself. And sometimes it feels like I'm just talking to myself, and like little me is like, hey, like, I really just need a friend right now. I just need someone to like sit down and listen to me and hear out my like thoughts, feelings, concerns, and complaints, you know? And then other times it's me telling myself, like, I really just want a shower. Like, I really just want to feel loved and taken care of right now, and putting the expectation that nobody else is going to come in and save me, right? Like, I think it's really beautiful and really cool to ask for help and to rely on other people, but there does come a point where sometimes you're trying to have these other people solve your issues for you. And unfortunately, that's kind of what I started doing for a while, was really trying to rely on other people, especially men, to solve these issues for me when it wasn't their issue to solve. Like, they can be a friend for me, they can listen to me, they can offer me support and guidance, but it's still up to me to be able to like work through everything, you know? So after I started to realize that I needed to take more control and just more control in my life, and not in like a negative sense. Like, I think taking control of your life but not controlling your life was a hard concept for me, because I was like, well, if I start doing everything like this, then the people around me that I allow into my life also need to start doing all of these things. And without realizing that they were doing a lot of stuff on their by themselves on their time that I wasn't doing, you know, and vice versa. Like, we all have our strengths and we all work through these things differently, because it would be really, really boring if we were all the same person, you know. And so just understanding that everybody's human in their own beautiful way, and to more love and accept them where they are, but then still have certain boundaries of like, these are the lines that I won't allow people to cross without like actual consequences. And sometimes the best consequence for a boundary being crossed, especially if it's like one of the first times, is literally just communication. Like being like, hey, like, that really hurt my feelings. Like, what happened? Like, why? I don't understand why you would do that. And really just trying to understand their perspective. And once you understand their perspective a little bit more, sometimes it's like, oh, like, I see how I could have misinterpreted that, you know, but that still really hurt my feelings. I'm gonna ask you to like not do that again, because that's not something that I allow in my life. And then they have the decision whether or not to respect those boundaries, you know. And it's still something I'm learning, and still something that I'm working on and trying out and kind of playing with in my life. And it is a lifelong process, and especially as you continue to allow people in your life, like, people change. Like, you have to rebuild those connections with people all the time, you know. And because of that rebuilding process, it's really easy to forget that it is the same person, but with so many different experiences now than like the last time you had a relationship with them, right? Like, whether or not they've actually changed with those experiences is up to them, but no matter what, they have had different experiences. And it's, I think, easier to give people grace when you understand that, like, oh, like, this isn't exactly the same person that did this to me last time, but at the same time we did have this conversation, so there is going to be like action taken towards a boundary, you know, like those kinds of things. And so, like, when you are going through this grieving process, and realizing that there's like things coming up from your past, there's there's gonna be times where it will like have a direct trigger of like, oh, like, this is the scenario that I'm healing from right now, you know. But other times it won't be so obvious. Other times you're like, I don't know why I'm upset right now, but I'm so upset, you know. And in those scenarios, you don't have to trace it back to like the first time you were ever upset in your life, because that's what talk therapy really taught me. You really just have to feel that emotion, and basically it is like at its core the same process. You just connect with yourself. You're like, hey girl, like, I notice you're upset right now, like, what's going on? Talk to me about it, you know, how can I help? And just those kinds of questions. And pretty soon your body will be like, I'm really upset right now. And sometimes you will be able to trace it back to maybe something that happened that day or that week, or like something along those lines. And other times your body's gonna be like, I'm upset and I also don't know why. I just need to feel loved right now, and you're not doing a very good job showing me love right now, you know. And I think the more that I go through this grieving process, the more I realize that the biggest issue of a lot of my problems wasn't like X, Y, and Z person hurting my feelings. You know, it wasn't some random person in my life, or not random. Damn. It wasn't like some person in my life hurting me that was making me upset. What was making me upset was the fact that I didn't, sorry if that was loud, like, the main thing that was making me upset was this idea that, like, they hurt me and I didn't stop them. Like, they hurt me and I didn't take care of myself after, you know. Like, I realized that my body and my mind and my soul just wanted my connection more than anyone else's. Like, they were like, yeah, like, we can't trust people. We already know this, but I thought I could trust you, and you weren't there for me, you know? Like, you told me that we were gonna get through this, and then you just completely shut me out and ignored me. And I had to really come to terms with the fact that I was the issue in my life, you know? I was the reason why I was upset. And, like, I can't control other people's actions. These people are still gonna hurt me. But I didn't allow myself the space to be listened to. I didn't allow myself the space to be heard and appreciated. Like, I felt forgotten by somebody else. So then I reiterated that with being forgotten. Like, I just didn't do anything with myself, you know? I was like, well, they hurt me, so I'm just gonna sit in this hurt until I can ignore it again, you know? And that was really devastating for my body. And so the more that I go through this grieving process, the more excited I truly get by it, because it's like, oh yay, like, it's finally a time that I get to, like, work on my skills again and see how much I've learned about the grieving process. And I know now that anytime that I, like, start the grieving process, that it means that, like, something else is coming in. And it's so cool to be able to be like, oh my gosh, like, I get to heal through this now, so that sometime in the future I get to allow more space and more love and more connection into my life. And the more excited I can get through the grieving process, mind you, the excitement is mainly just like tears. Like, not happy tears. Like, I'm like grieving, I'm crying, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm grieving. I'm like, it's okay, that just means something new and something better is coming in. And then I work through the grieving process, and a few months go by, and then I meet like a really awesome person that, like, had I not spent time connecting with myself, I wouldn't have had like the opportunity to even meet and to work with. And I'm like, okay, like, the grieving process was worth it, you know? And I was talking with my aunt, but she's also a very good friend of mine. And she was talking about how she's been working through the grieving process recently a little bit more too. And as soon as she accepted that something was no longer going to be in her life, like, almost immediately, her new offer came in. And she was like, oh, like, that's cool. Like, I didn't even have to do too much. Besides just work through my emotions. And I think that really is, like, the coolest part of everything, is especially being a woman, because I can't speak about men's experience, and I haven't heard too many men talk about it. So I'm just going to say especially as a woman, because I've only heard women talk about it. It's just a really beautiful process of, like, getting clarity and getting answers through our emotions, and then also, like, just having the universe speak to us through our emotions. It's just a really, really cool process and experience, and the more that I do it, the more that I want to do it. And so it's a really nice, like, full circle moment, if that makes sense. Like, I'm like, okay, like, it's gonna be worth it. And then I keep working through it, and I'm like, okay, like, this is fun. And then, yeah, anyways, you get it. I also don't do my makeup that often anymore. I used to do it a lot when I was in, like, college, like, every single day. And now, just, like, not so much. Just got too much to do sometimes, it feels like. And makeup is just not a top priority, but I love playing with color and stuff like that. So, yeah. I don't know why that was the noise that came to mind. Ugh. Hashtag allergies. So I'll probably record this one just a little bit longer so I can cut that out. But yeah, so I feel like the grieving process is really taken for granted. Like, we don't appreciate it in the ways that we really should. And the more that we can go through this grieving process and really start to learn to appreciate it and look for the good in it, the more that the good will really make itself known and apparent. So, I don't know, like, I think the biggest thing that I want you to take away from my experience is that, like, talk therapy works for some people, you know? I haven't been one of those people that it works for, which doesn't mean that it's non-effective. It just means that it wasn't effective for me and how I needed to process and heal from these emotions, right? And so, like, if you're like me and talk therapy just seems to like run you around in circles and like doesn't actually give you any solutions on how to effectively like work through these issues, especially in like a decent time period. Like, sometimes I'm like, this process should not take this long. There should be a better way to connect to myself, and there has been, and I just had to find it. I know, I really encourage you just to start incorporating mindfulness into your daily activities and really just figure out what it is that you need to do to start to work through these emotions through just literally asking yourself, like connecting with yourself, being like, hey girl, it's me, long time no see, I'm here for you, like, let me know what's up, and like, let's work through it together. And I don't know if it's the same for everybody that's gonna work through it, but I know for me, there seemed to be some like resentment built up towards myself. Like, my body was like, oh, you again. What are you doing here? Like, you're not actually gonna stay around and like help me through this. Like, you're gonna just get what you want and then you're just gonna leave like how you always do. And I had to sit with myself for a while, like really build that connection with myself and be like, hey, like, I did fuck up in the past. Like, I did push you away. But I'm here now, and I am here to stay, and I would really like to be a part of this journey with you, you know? And treating myself how I would treat other humans and talk to myself how I would talk to other humans had I messed up like that towards them. And the more that I was able to do that, the better my relationship with myself became, because my body started to actually recognize that I wasn't just going away again, and I was connecting with myself, you know, that I was making an effort to stay connected to myself, and that just wasn't something I had done in the past, but it was something that I made a continual effort to do. So if you're being met with resistance as you first start out and you're feeling frustrated about the resistance, like, in and of itself, it kind of is your fault. Like, you've made the choice, for most people, to push away those thoughts and feelings and emotions, and maybe you didn't have the necessary, like, right tools or the right resources, or maybe you were just following the guidance of some, like, online influencer, you know, and you were doing the best that you could. But at the end of the day, even in, like, other relationships, like, if a man does the best that he can, but the woman still doesn't feel loved, I'm using this example because it's like the best one I know for myself. If a man's doing the best that he can, but it's still like the woman doesn't feel loved, like, he's not doing it in the right ways, unfortunately. And there still has to be a grieving process for the woman, you know, and she gets to make the decision whether or not she wants to give him another chance to like try again, or if it's just been like too little too late for too long and she just doesn't feel connected and committed anymore, you know. But I think the more that I'm able to see me go through this process, the more I'm like, oh, like, I kind of understand where like some of the men in my life are coming from, where they're like, I don't know how to love you. And I was like, it's not that hard. Just love me the exact way that's in my mind. And we'll be fine. And unfortunately, people just are not mind readers. And for me, during that time, I didn't see it as a form of mind reading. I saw it as just the correct way to be loved, without realizing that their correct way to be loved was different than mine, you know? And it doesn't make either of us right or either of us wrong, but we're just different humans, so we just need to be loved differently. And the more that I'm able to love myself and work through these hard emotions and be there for myself and continually show up for myself, the more that I can be like, hey, like, I get it, you know, to other people in my life whenever they're not loving me the way I want to be loved. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to accept abuse. Like, there's a difference between, like, wanting to be showered with presents all the time as a form of like being loved, and then like, I don't know, continually doing acts of service instead, you know, and just not loving you the way that you want to be loved, and then actual abuse and neglect. Like, there's a big difference, you know. And so this is not an encouragement to accept abuse and neglect in your life. This is an encouragement, however, to show yourself the love and encouragement and support that you need, so that you don't feel like you need that from somebody else. So when somebody else does give it to you, it feels like just an extra cherry on top. It feels like just something a little extra that's like really cool to have in your life right now. And there's certain forms of love that I also won't accept in my life anymore. So if you are not willing to build like an emotional relationship with me, and I give you like the necessary tools, for me the necessary tools is literally just asking me more questions about my life, my goals, my dreams, and my ambitions. Like, that's a pretty big one for me. And if I tell you that and then you continue to like buy me stuff, like, I just don't accept that in my life, you know? Especially because in my experience, people turn that around and like try to use it. It's like, I've showed you nothing but love. And it's like, no, I told you the ways that I need to be loved, and I don't care about physical things. I care about the emotional value of things. And I feel like gift giving is a cheap way out of like not creating the necessary skills in your life to build an authentic relationship with somebody, you know, because it is scary and there is a lot of trust involved. So, I don't know, my 2 cents. Almost done with my little makeup look. I also, I'm gonna have to wear this to work today. I feel like I didn't think that part through, because it's a little embarrassing to show up to work like this. That is what it is. It's already on my face and I want to look cute tonight, so. Okay. But yeah, if you're struggling with like how to connect with yourself more authentically, just create a sense of mindfulness. Like, really just start talking to yourself. And if you're met with like some sort of backlash that's like really hard for you to feel like the want to work through, just remember that it's like any other relationship in your life, like, that you've neglected. Like, the person isn't gonna just like accept you into your life again, right? Like, there's gonna be a period of distrust and a little bit of resentment, and I don't know, like, the feeling that you are unworthy to be talking to them essentially in that way because of the other ways that you treated them. And honestly, personally, after being somebody that's been manipulated a lot, I think that's really fair and really solid. And honestly, I was really happy with myself that I wasn't just so willing to like accept me back into my life, as cheesy as that sounds, because then I at least knew that like I didn't have to be that willing to other people if they actually wanted me to be a part of their life, because I wanted me to be a part of my life. And so I made the continual effort to show up for myself and to like build that relationship with myself, you know? So, I don't know. My little 2 cents. I'm gonna put on some eyeliner, do my lashes, some setting spray, and then I will be good to go. So, yeah, grieving is a really fun process, honestly. And the more that I get to like grieve, the more that I realize that it's a beautiful moment to connect with myself and really understand myself better. And all in all, I love the process. Because grieving gives me hope for a better future. And grieving allows me the opportunity to be there for myself in ways that other people have tried and I haven't been able to fully accept because I didn't know what I wanted or how I wanted it. And it allows me the opportunity to figure out more of what I want and what I need and kind of how I expect that to work in my life. It's just really cool. I really love it. So, I don't know. If you have any questions about the grieving process, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you are currently working through something and you're unsure even where to start the grieving process, I do offer free one-on-one Zoom calls. So you can always feel free to book a Zoom call with me and we'll get you 2 action steps that you can take today to begin your healing journey. These action steps are going to be based on connecting with yourself, connecting with the world around you, and connecting with the people around you, depending upon your strengths, weaknesses, and temperaments. Remember that I never have the answers for you. All of the answers you need are already inside of you. However, sometimes we just don't have the necessary tools to fully connect with ourselves to hear what those answers are. And through my own experience and learning through other people's experiences, I have a really cool group of information that I would love to share with more people so that they can have an easier time working through their emotions than maybe I was able to, and go through it with a couple less failures than I did, and also just somebody to help support you. That's really, I think, the biggest thing that I needed was just support from somebody else. And when I needed it the most after connecting with myself for a while is when I was actually able to find it. And I think the biggest thing of why I wasn't able to find it in the past was because I wasn't in a state of acceptance in my life. Had that person shown up any earlier in my life, I probably wouldn't have known how to accept help from them. So remember that even if you're not getting what you want right now, it's going to come when you're actually ready and open to receive it. And unfortunately, we do not have control over that. I don't know if you can see, I definitely messed up that side of the eyeliner. I'm sorry. So definitely let me know what your journey has been through your own griefs and your own struggles. And I hope that when I finish making hold on, I'm doing eyeliner and it's difficult. I hope that when I'm done finished making the workbook that I'm working on, it's going to teach you better tools to start connecting with yourself more, and that you can find a lot of helpful information in it. Let me know just kind of what you guys are needing that I can put in this workbook. This workbook is going to be completely free for you guys once I am finished with it. You saw me starting it right now. I always do this where it like gives me an extra cross. It doesn't give me it. I give me it. I also lost my other little mirror. That's okay. I'll just end it here because this is about the end of my makeup look anyways. But definitely let me know what your grieving process has looked like. Some of the tools that you guys are needing that I can incorporate in this workbook for you guys. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. But until next time, I will see y'all later. Peace. Okay. Then I'm going to finish up my makeup look. Oh, here it is. Colt 45 and 2 zigzags. Baby, that's what we need. We can go to the park after dark, smoke that tumbleweed. As the marijuana burn, we can take our turn singing them dirty rap songs. Stop and hit the bong like cheating chum. Tongue. So roll my joint and pick out the scissors and stems. I'm feeling high as hell. I'm doing on down. It's getting on down your rails. So roll the 83 Cadillac Duke DeVille. Takes on the cities, just don't sit. I bet my caddy will. Well, it was just sundown in a small white town, right called the East Side Palmdale. When the Afro man walked through the white land, houses went up for sale. Then I was standing on the corner selling rap CDs when I met a little girl named Jan. I let her ride in my caddy cause I didn't know her daddy was a leader of the Ku Klux Klan. Who we fucked on the bed, fucked on the floor. Fucked so long I grew a fucking afro. Him fucked to the left, fucked to the right. Sucked my dick till the shit turned white. And I thought to myself, she bug. My ass looking like a zebra. Put on my clothes and I was on my way until her daddy pulled a Chevrolet. And so I ran, I jumped the back window. But her daddy, he was waiting with a 2x4. Oh, he beat me to the left, he beat me to the right. The motherfucker whooped my ass all night. But I ain't mad out of prejudice. That is the best damn pussy I ever had. If you're looking for a little bit more information about how to build a brand based on authentic connection, or you're just looking for a couple new ways to build connection with yourself, click the link in my bio. I offer free one-on-one Zoom calls for you, and we are going to figure out 2 action steps that you can take today to start to build more connection with yourself. Let me know down in the comments below what your grieving process has looked like and what helps and tips that you guys need that I can include in this freebie for you guys that would be super beneficial. And in the meantime, feel free to check out any of my socials. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.